meteorologist Brad Winter from Region Weather Live with your fast forecast for the Dakotas and Minnesota. The snow moving through Minnesota will reach the eastern portions of the state by around midnight here. And in between this warm front and this cold Arctic front that's going to be diving south, could be a little bit of rain that will be quickly moving down to the south and east. However, with this cold front moving south, that will quickly bring in some colder air and should displace the rain and eventually turn over to snow as the night goes along. Now by 3 a.m. Friday morning, we're going to be left with mostly snow across the eastern Dakotas and across Minnesota. Most of the heavier snow at this point will just be exiting out of eastern parts of Minnesota and entering into Wisconsin. But behind this cold front will be stiff north-northwesterly winds gusting 50 to possibly 60 miles per hour. And so with the snow that moved through and the strong northerly winds, the National Weather Service has issued a blizzard warning in effect from midnight Thursday night, early Friday morning until noon on Friday. I wouldn't be completely surprised if this gets expanded out just a bit, depending on how some of these winds are through the overnight hours and early parts of Friday morning. So just keep that in mind. So we're going to be dealing with visibility is near zero at times. So just be careful if you're traveling up and down the valley tonight into Friday morning. And we turn back to the model by 6 a.m. on Friday. We can see most of the snow now has moved out of the area, but we still are left with plenty of strong north-northwesterly winds up and down the valley and into western parts of Minnesota. Here we can see where the model pushes those strong northerly winds, and a lot of times up and down the valley, the models actually understate a lot of times the intensity of the wind across the valley, especially with the northerly winds. So that's why they're only saying 38 to 40 miles per hour. So we could definitely see, like I said, gusts of 50, possibly even 60 miles per hour. However, this does show you that there will be strong northerly winds moving into central parts of Minnesota by 6 a.m. So you can expect some blowing and at least some drifting snow. And so that's going to be creating some hazardous travel conditions. Now, right around that 9 to 10 a.m. time frame, most of the snow will have moved on out of the area. And these winds kind of into far western parts of Minnesota into eastern North Dakota and South Dakota, those winds are going to be starting to slack off by around 9 or 10 a.m. as we get a little bit later into the morning. So by around 9 or 10 a.m., we're not expecting to see those 50 mile per hour wind gusts anymore. However, we will probably see the 30 to possibly 40 mile per hour all across this region still by 9. Once you get closer to that noon hour, those winds begin to die off even more. But we're still left with some gusty conditions in the central and east that will probably at least cause some drifting snow as we get to that noon hour. And then by 3 p.m., most of the strongest winds is left on the north shore up in the northeastern parts of Minnesota. But then our focus shifts out into the east where we're expecting another disturbance to eject out of the Rockies and bring snow across southern parts of South Dakota and into Minnesota Friday night and into Saturday morning. And here we are, 6 p.m. on Friday evening. You can see some of that snow and even a little bit of rain mixed in with that. And by 9 p.m. Friday evening, that snow really starts to take off here in southwestern parts of South Dakota. By midnight, that snow has now made it to the southeastern part of South Dakota. And by 3 a.m., it is now making it into southwest Minnesota and starting to die off a little bit more down in the west. And once you get to about 6 a.m. on Saturday morning, again, that snow begins to taper off a little more. We continue to see at least some light to possibly even moderate snow continuing down in the southeastern parts of South Dakota, southern portions of Minnesota. Then by 9 a.m., again, that snow continuing across the south. And by noon on Saturday, it's finally kind of starting to make its way out of the region. This is what I mentioned on the longer video last night. Here we can see in the gold across southern portions of South Dakota, a winter storm watch in effect from a Friday right around 6 p.m. until Saturday right around 6 p.m. where they're expecting heavy snow with total accumulations of 4 to 7 inches and winds could gust as high as 35 miles per hour. Now, I also did say in the longer video yesterday that I wouldn't be surprised if this got brought up just a little bit further to the north and also back to the west just a little bit. So we'll see what the Weather Service winds up doing. But here you can see in the latest snowfall forecast with the latest models that have come in how that band of snow makes it just a little bit further north and possibly just a little bit further west. And actually taking a look at this, perhaps we'll see a little something into Minnesota as well, at least a winter weather advisory associated with this snow where, again, we're looking at the possibility of 6 to 7 inches of snow falling with this little disturbance that moves through Friday night into Saturday morning. So make sure you keep that in mind if you have any travel plans down in that vicinity, because there's an awful lot of snow that could fall. And for Region Weather Live, I'm meteorologist Brad Winter. Everybody have a good day.